Hi there, it's Jen from modernmedicinelady.com and the Empathic Woman System, and the word of the day is translation. And I'm not talking about using a French-English dictionary or taking a really beautiful song in Spanish and translating it into something really cheesy in English. I'm talking about how, as human beings, we can have an experience and then through the emotions that are connected to it, through our age, through our perception, and through our capacity to understand all of the different factors that are going on, or more accurately, sometimes our inability to understand all of the different factors that are going on. The way we retell the story of the experience gets lost in translation, gets translated in different ways based on a whole bunch of different factors. And sometimes we have a fairly accurate and clear translation of the events and of the experience. But then other times we can end up carrying a really amplified story or a different story than maybe what the facts really were. A lot of times because, one, we may not understand the subtlety of everything going on. We may not have all the facts. We may not have all the information. And then number two, we may be so emotionally jacked that we do not have the capacity to perceive things as accurately as we would if we were calmer, if we were rolling with the punches. Now, I personally, as a highly sensitive empathic person, was a very, very easy to startle child. I was one of those scaredy cats. I was one of those kids who was constantly afraid of everything. I was reacting to all kinds of stuff. And a lot of times I was surprised. Like, I was just often not expecting things. Like, loud noises startled me, people jumping out of closets startled me, all kinds of stuff. And I had a cousin who really loved jumping out of closets with my grandmother's shoe stretchers to mess with me because he knew he could get a rise out of me, because it was so easy to get a rise out of me. But the thing is that as I have done a lot of work on releasing a lot of emotional charges, what I've come to understand is that a lot of times the actual experience was far more benign than I ever realized it was then, because it was my story was being translated through my shock and my startle. And that as I release a lot of that initial emotional shock and awe, that what I find is that I have a different way of telling the story, and that I have a different way of experiencing it or understanding it, and often I can put it to rest. So I'm at a training this weekend, and I was hearing somebody talking about working with children, and about how often their experience or perception is based on what they imagine might happen, as opposed to necessarily the reality of what is actually happening. And I was thinking about that. Reminded me of an experience I had a number of years ago working with somebody where they had been telling themselves a story about an event that had happened in their life, and their experience of it was that it was really icky. Now, I'm not going to go into details because this is not my story to tell. But the thing that was fascinating about it was that we decided to just see if we could take some of the emotional intensity down on this icky experience. And as we did, as we reduced and released the intensity of the emotional experience, what was recalled was that they actually got themselves out of harm's way before any harm happened. That they actually basically said, I'm not comfortable with this, and they ran away, and then they went and told adults this was not okay, and then people responded accordingly. But what's so fascinating is that because the initial event was so shocking, was so surprising, was so out of the ordinary, there was no recall of any of the rest of this. There was no remembering that they had actually stuck up for themselves. And so because it had been so shocking initially, their experience got translated through that shock, and for the next 30 plus years they'd been telling themselves a story about this event that was based on the shock and not based on the fact that they had stuck up for themselves. Now, like I said, there are definitely times where things happen and they just suck, and there's no reinterpretation or looking at the translation and seeing it a different way. But there are definitely other times where, as an adult, we can go back and look at it and go, is this really true? Did this really happen the way that I am telling myself that it happened? As an adult, can I look at this in a different way? So I guess my question to you is right now, do you have any kinds of experiences or events that are stories that you tell yourself about your life and about why maybe you experience things in a certain way now? And is it possible that you are translating it in a particular way that is through an emotional filter that could have been from surprise and shock, but that maybe as an adult, maybe through a different filter, you could perceive it in a really different way? Now, I will say that in my experience, using EFT, emotional freedom technique, and tapping on the intensity can really make a huge difference in terms of being able to see things more clearly. That a lot of times just trying to intellectually go back there is not the same thing as actually being able to release the charge on something and then understand, oh my God, I've been interpreting or translating this story in this way for the last 30 years of my life, and yet, wow, this is actually what happened. So I'd love to hear what you have to say about all of this. Please leave a comment below. And until next word of the day, I am wishing you peace. I am wishing you ease. And I am wishing you that capacity to see when a story has been translated through that emotional filter, and maybe there is another way to see the story. So, in the meantime, please go like my Facebook page, Modern Medicine Lady, and also, I will be eternally grateful for your help to get this video out into the world. Please like it, please share it, and please pass it along to other people who find it useful. Thank you so much, and until tomorrow, peace.